Hey, what's going on, guys? I hope you all are doing well today. Elliot here. Welcome back to The Fragrance Well. So it's just over, I think a month of the anniversary of this channel being in existence. I've been doing videos for about a year and a month, basically. And I've kind of just been reflecting back on some of my thoughts I might have had when I first started making videos on a number of fragrance-related topics and how they've changed to now. One of the ones that came up is, if I were going to start a collection today, how would I do it? Or more specifically, if I was going to suggest to someone that wanted to start collecting, what would I tell them? Normally in the community, we have these kind of fragrances that are in that subset of the discussion of fragrances where, you know, hey, these are good ones to start with because they're easy to wear, they're inexpensive, yada, yada, yada. To be honest, people have asked me now, and I don't know what to tell them because I'm like, I don't want to put fragrances like that into a box, number one. And number two, there's so much good stuff out there. Why would you basically say, oh, you have to start with these, when literally you can start anywhere? So that's my attitude now. I think you can start with really whatever. Just get your nose on stuff. Find out what you like. For me personally, I still would start with stuff that has a little bit of versatility to it. So what I have done today is, if I could go back in time and talk to myself, what would I suggest to myself, basically, based off of what I have in my collection as of right now. I've got 10 scents here that I think I would suggest to myself that I wouldn't have originally. And all of these are not going to be what are considered to be your starter fragrances. And also, not all of them are necessarily, you can wear them anywhere at any time, but the majority of them are. That still is something I think is important. The utility of a fragrance versus what the fragrance necessarily is, I think is a little bit more important when you're getting started. So let's see what I have to say. So once again, I got 10 of them, but before we get started, as always, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you do like the content, and please hit that bell icon, enable notifications so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Let's get into it. All right, guys, so like I said, I've gone back in time and I am talking to myself when I first started collecting, and here's some of the stuff I would suggest. By the way, even if it was released afterwards, it doesn't matter. So first off, from the house of Marc-Antoine Barras, we've got Ganymede. Marc-Antoine Barras, Ganymede. So this one was a love at first sniff for me. So there's no reason for me to think my former self or self back in the past wouldn't like this. This is a somewhat fresh scent, kind of a watery, mineralic feel to it. Has a little bit of an orange flavoring to it. It's quite woody, and it also has a leathery touch to it. I think you can wear this at any time. I think the scent smells amazing. I think its utility is quite vast, even though the scent is a little bit unique. You may not really be able to say it now because there's a lot of scents that have taken inspiration from this, but I think there's a special quality to this fragrance. And someone starting off, I don't think that they should just have what everybody claims to have started off with. Why not start off with a bang? So I would suggest this to my former self, and frankly, I would suggest people that are even new to check out scents like this. Matter of fact, like I said in the intro, check out everything. The best way to find out what you like is to check out everything. Get your nose on everything. You'll eventually figure out what floats your boat and what doesn't. So once again, from the house of Marc-Antoine Barras, this is Ganymede. All right, next up we got one from the house of Mancera. It's going to be Vetiver Sensuel. Mancera Vetiver Sensuel. Listen. If we were gonna put a list together of, oh, try all these fragrances out if you're new, which, like I said, again, I don't really want to do that anymore, but if we had to, this one should be on it. This one is amazing. I mean, you talk about just super easy to wear. You can use it for anything, smells great. You're more than likely gonna love it. People are gonna love it because it's just a great smelling, easy scent. A concoction of citruses with a watery feel to it. It's not aquatic, it just has a watery feel to it. And you also got a little bit of a mint flavoring and just fresh and clean, dry woods, a little bit of oak moss, but not overpowering, and vetiver. I mean, you can't go wrong with a scent like this, in my opinion, especially if you're looking for something to say you just wear to work, say you just wear it for everyday kind of outings, if you will. Nothing special. You just want something that smells nice. You can just put it on. You don't have to think about it. This scent does that, so I would easily suggest this to my former self, and frankly, I would tell anybody who's new to collecting, like, do not sleep on a scent like this. I know it's something you've probably never heard of, but again, be open to trying everything, and this one is really just a good starter scent, really just a good scent for everybody. I don't care if you've been collecting for 25 years. This is just a great one. So once again, from the house of Mancera, this is Vetiver Sensuel. Next one is coming from the house of Dior. This is going to be Dior Homme, the 2020 release. Dior Homme 2020. So for this, well, I'll be honest, the reason I chose to put this on this list is because if anybody's asking about, say, the House of Dior or the House of Chanel, they're probably going to get the usual suggestions. You're either going to be told about Sauvage or Bleu de Chanel, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be. I chose to put this on because it's just something a little different from those, and I think it can serve the same purpose overall. This is going to be a fresh, slightly peppery, woody fragrance. Easygoing, smells great, not offensive, perfect balance in this fragrance. Granted, it's nothing special. And again, if I were suggesting this to myself, I think I would like it even then because, you know, I'm assuming I'm the same person, even if I'm going back in time talking to a former self. This is just a great scent to start with. It's a great scent to kind of get you into the modern era of fragrances without it all just being the super uber sweet stuff that is, you know, popular nowadays. Not knocking any of that stuff. I'm just saying it's just something a little different from what you would typically find in today's market. So once again, from the House of Dior, this is going to be Dior Homme 2020. All right, next one's coming from the House of Lorenzo Pizzaglia, and this is going to be Black Sea. Lorenzo Pizzaglia, Black Sea. Now, admittedly, I do think this could potentially be a bit of a hard sell, if you will, to a person that is new to fragrances. But again, that's not the point. I'm not trying to actually sell them anything. I'm not a salesman. The idea is to just get their nose on something new. And even to me, if I were talking to my former self with this fragrance, I'm not gonna say I wouldn't like it because I liked this when I first got my nose on it, but I probably wouldn't fully understand it. I wouldn't really know what it was I was smelling. I would just think it was interesting. That's the overall makeup of this scent. I think it's just a very interesting scent. It is aquatic, it is salty, does have that marine quality to it, kind of an algae-like smell, not in a funky way. That's just kind of how I can best describe it. And also, it is a little bit powdery as well. In my mind, in terms of aquatic fragrances, this is superior to a lot of aquatic scents out there. That's just my opinion, but that's why I would suggest it. If I'm gonna show somebody stuff, why wouldn't I wanna show them some of the things that I think are superior to what is out there? You know, I would wanna show somebody the best of something and just, you know, they can go from there. So once again, from the House of Lorenzo Pizzaglia, this is Black Sea. All right, next one's coming from the House of Thameen, and this is gonna be Carved Oud. Thameen London Carved Oud. All right, so those of you who know about this fragrance, which I imagine a lot of you have heard about this by now, this is basically their take on Tom Ford Oud Wood. And I've told the story about how Oud Wood was the first kind of higher quality fragrance I ever got my nose on. Basically opened the door for the possibility of me doing something such as collecting. But I think this fragrance is superior to Oud Wood. I think it's a better representation of what an Oud Wood fragrance is, regardless of whether or not we'd have it or not if Oud Wood was never made. So you got the overall Oud Wood smell. It's a little bit spicy. It's of course woody. A lot of cypriol in this. There's also patchouli in this one, which is I think is one of the biggest separators from Oud Wood. I don't get a patchouli, at least not a heavy one, from Oud Wood. There's a lot more patchouli in this, and I think the cypriol is turned way up, so you have that characteristic. As far as I'm concerned, you can get the same kind of results from this in terms of just the experience that you get from Oud Wood, just at a heightened sense. So once again, from the House of Thameen, this is Carved Oud. All right, next one's coming from the House of Arabian Oud, and this is gonna be Madawi, the Gold Edition. Arabian Oud, Madawi Gold. So this one here, I wouldn't say it to my former self or to anybody if I was showing them this when they're first starting out, but I would just be thinking in my mind, like, this is one of those fragrances where you're just like, I didn't know something could smell this good and that sexy in a bottle. This fragrance is sexy in a bottle personified. Sweet and jammy pineapple, red fruits, cardamom, sweet vanilla and tonka bean. This fragrance is sticky, drippy, delicious, all right? This is an adult fragrance for sure. This is not for children. You know what I mean? Naturally, this is gonna be one of those fragrance houses just in general that you're probably not gonna know about unless you just happen to live near a boutique when you're first starting out collecting. Again, I'm not the gatekeeping type. I would be more than happy to show anybody who's new to this stuff, including my former self, like, hey, check out everything. Check out this right here. Because you're not gonna hear about this unless someone tells you about it. I'm telling you about it now, and I'm telling you now, this is gonna be superior, in my opinion, to a lot of the stuff that you're gonna find in the department stores. So once again, from the House of Arabian Oud, this is Madawi Gold. Next one coming from the House of BDK Parfums, it's gonna be Gris Charnel Extrait. BDK Parfums Gris Charnel Extrait. So the thing about this fragrance is, at least in the niche world and in the community, it's not really considered one you don't know about anymore. This is one of the most popular niche fragrances on the market, in terms of the community at least, as of right now. But so what? It's not gonna be one that people would say, hey, check that one out if you're new to fragrances. But listen, I think this fragrance just smells outstanding. It's a little bit creamy, it's a little bit fizzy, cardamom, fig in the opening, a little bit of a booziness, just a touch of it. It's smooth, it's calming. It also just smells amazing. So, I mean, why would you not want to suggest this to somebody? Because like, I think this is some of the best of perfumery on the market right now, in just terms of it smelling amazing. So why wouldn't you want to suggest that to someone? So yeah, I would suggest this to my former self, because like, I'm like, hey man, this fragrance just smells awesome. Once again, from the house of BDK Parfums, this is Gris Charnel, come on, Extrait. Next up, from the house of Ormond Jane, this is gonna be Montabaco Intensivo. Ormond Jane, Montabaco Intensivo. So this one's kind of getting back to the category of fragrances you can kind of wear for any and everything. This one here, I think, is a great introduction into what a tobacco fragrance can be without it being like overly spicy, overly sweet, maybe overly boozy. This fragrance is cooling, has this kind of air accord, and I do kind of experience that. Some cooling spice with it. A tea accord in here that's very nice, just has this kind of calming but also gentlemanly smell and vibe to it, and of course some dry leafy tobacco that smells really, really great. I have actually suggested this quite often to people that are not fragrance collectors or connoisseurs, because I think the fragrance is unique and I think it'll offer them something that they otherwise would not find on the market, and it's something they can wear just about anywhere, so they don't really have to think too much about it. So once again, from the house of Ormond Jane, this is Montabaco Intensivo. Next one's coming from the house of Zaharoff. It's gonna be Signature Rosé. Zaharoff, Signature Rosé. All right, now I will admit, myself included, for guys that are kind of newer to fragrances, rose might be one of those things you kind of have to warm up to, but how you gonna warm up to it if you don't at least get your nose on it? So I would suggest, hey, check out a fragrance like this one. Maybe not this one specifically, it's not as easy to get your nose on this, but the concept of getting your nose on things is what is important here. This is a rose fragrance that has jammy rose, fruity rose, lemony rose, kind of green, stemmy rose, combined with this kind of incensey, resinous, woody base, if you will. A newer guy might not fully understand a scent like this, but I had plenty of fragrances I got my nose on when I first started collecting, and many of them I didn't quite understand, but because I had gotten my nose on them, I at least kind of had it in the back of my mind, and I revisited it, and then I was like, now I get it, and I got a lot of bottles based on that concept. Once again, from the house of Zaharoff, this is gonna be Signature Rosé. All right, last but not least, coming from the house of Montclair, this is gonna be La Cordee. Montclair La Cordee. Once again, shout out to Quality Fragrances for putting me up on this fragrance, because I otherwise would not have known about it, because I didn't even know Montclair had a high quality fragrance line. So this one, to my mind, pretty much kind of smells like lemon tea with a drop of peppermint. There's actually not lemon in this, it's actually bergamot, but I think the bergamot in this is top quality. I don't know if it's the highest quality on the market, but they did not skimp on the bergamot in this. And then there's tea, and actually the fragrance is really more so centered around cypress, but I think the cypress is presented in a way that is very digestible. This fragrance is super easy to wear, smells great, it's simple, but it is good, and you can pretty much use it for anything, and you can spray this on without thinking about it. You could say this is kind of the introduction into a tea fragrance. I know I've mentioned Montabaco Intensivo having tea in it, but this one is kind of more tea centered in my opinion. So tea fragrances I think can work wonders for anybody who has a fragrance wardrobe, and this is just one of the ones I would suggest to somebody new to check out, and I certainly would do that for myself. So once again, from the house of Montclair, this is La Cordee. Alright guys, that is going to do it for today's video. Please let me know down in the comments below if you could go back in time and tell yourself like, hey, check out these fragrances if you're just getting started. Let me know something you would suggest to yourself. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say. Thanks again for watching all the way until the end. Really do appreciate you guys. Please remember to be well and smell well, and I will see you in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.